The date was October the 29th, 1998. The place, Christie's of New York, the world's oldest fine art auctioneers. Bidding was about to begin on a rather small and unassuming manuscript, a manuscript that had been in a small private collection for years. The volume was mouldy and charred, ravaged by 1,000 years of weather, travel, and abuse. Pages were missing. Even so, experts said the book could sell for $800,000. The book was being sold not for its looks, but for what it contains. The oldest surviving copy of works by the ancient Greek mathematician Archimedes.
$1,900,000 in the front row at $1,900,000. $2 million.
When the gavel went down, the manuscript had, in fact, sold for $2 million.
$2 million it is. Panel 169.
To an anonymous collector.
My client was extremely calm, and I think that posterity will prove him right. It was a tremendously good buy, perhaps the most important text manuscript ever to have been sold at auction. And I'm thrilled to have been part of the purchase of it.
Take a pencil and a piece of paper, think creatively, and you are able to find something true about the physical external world. This was the discovery made by Archimedes. Very few people made discoveries of equivalent importance. Think Galileo, think Newton, think Einstein.
The manuscript sold at Christie's that day is the only source of Archimedes' method of mechanical theorems, in which Archimedes pioneered the study of calculus. And the manuscript is the only source of Archimedes' famous treatise on floating bodies in the original Greek. In the treatise, Archimedes explores the physics of flotation and clarifies the principle of specific gravity.
Archimedes thought in diagrams. Now we've gotten access to his thinking because we've gotten access to his diagrams. This book gives us a unique source for the diagrams which Archimedes himself drew in the sand.
And now, the Walters Art Gallery, renowned worldwide both for its superlative collection of manuscripts and for its skill in manuscript conservation, has been entrusted with this unique book.
It is a great privilege to have the Archimedes Palimpsest because, in a way, we have a window onto a time very removed from where we are now, and we have that window, and we're obliged to bring to this side of the window, to look through it, those people most capable, first, of preserving the book, and secondarily, of understanding the book and what the book tells us about the learning of Archimedes and the science of the past.
Give me a place to stand, and I will move the earth. Archimedes of Syracuse spoke these words in the 3rd century BC. Archimedes may not have moved the earth, yet his work has a profound influence on us even today. The Archimedes screw still irrigates fields in developing countries. Archimedes also revealed the mathematical principles behind the fulcrum and the lever. Throughout the world, we still use a clever device for which Archimedes elucidated the mathematical principle, the pulley. And Archimedes' games and puzzles are still played throughout the world. Archimedes, the mathematical genius, found his talents well used in his birthplace, Syracuse, on the Mediterranean island of Sicily, dominated by the great volcano Mount Etna. In the 3rd century BC, Syracuse was, as it is today, a hub of commerce, art, and science. In Syracuse, Archimedes first endeared himself to King Hiero II by solving a puzzle dear to the king's heart. Had Hiero's goldsmith tried to cheat the king by adding cheaper metals to the king's new crown? Archimedes' task? To analyze the crown without harming the crown itself. An answer to the puzzle came to Archimedes in his bath. History recalls Archimedes leaping from his tub at the moment of inspiration, shouting, "Eureka! I found it!" and running naked through the streets of Syracuse. Later, King Hiero brought Archimedes' genius to bear on more urgent matters, such as war. At that time, Syracuse was a Greek colony. On this massive altar, built by King Hiero, Archimedes participated in sacrifices to Greek gods. Archimedes watched Greek tragedies in this magnificent amphitheatre, which still bears inscriptions on seats reserved for dignitaries, including King Hiero's, carved when Archimedes lived 2,200 years ago. Although the various kings of Syracuse allied themselves with great powers, such as Carthage and Rome, they were often forced to defend the walls of their city. In 214 BC, under the command of their general Marcellus, legions of the Roman army sailed to Syracuse and besieged the city, which had recently formed an alliance with Carthage. In response, Archimedes fortified the magnificent stronghold of Syracuse, the Euryalos fortress, which sits high above the city on the Epipolae plain. Putting his theories of pulleys and levers to work, Archimedes designed war machines to keep the Romans at bay. From the walls of the island, Archimedes guarded the city against sea attacks by projecting huge beams of wood to gouge the hulls of enemy ships. Archimedes' genius defended the city of Syracuse for more than 2 years. Eventually, however, the Romans penetrated the great mathematician's ingenious defences and stormed the city. Soon after, a Roman soldier came to Archimedes and demanded that the great military genius accompany him to the quarters of General Marcellus. Archimedes refused, claiming he had yet to finish a mathematical problem that presently occupied his attention. The soldier, in anger, struck the 75-year-old Archimedes dead. Despite his cleverness with mechanical gadgets and his many engineering legacies, Archimedes himself was far more interested in abstract mathematical theorems and in recording his theories for posterity. Archimedes wrote out his theories on papyrus scrolls. Succeeding generations preserved his works by copying and recopying them onto other scrolls. In the 4th century AD, scribes began to copy onto sheets of parchment, which were later bound between wooden boards. They had invented the book. The Archimedes manuscript, now in the care of the Walters Art Gallery, is the end product of just this sort of process. The manuscript dates to the later years of the 10th century AD. Although manufactured more than 1,000 years after the great mathematician's death, this book is the earliest copy of Archimedes' treatise to survive. It is fitting that the manuscript was made in the Mediterranean city of Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, because this city was already indebted to Archimedes. Here, Constantinople's greatest monument, the 6th century church, Hagia Sophia, was designed by Isidore of Miletus, who had been inspired by a work by Archimedes called On the Sphere and the Cylinder.
From about 300 AD until about 1200, Constantinople was the one place in the Mediterranean where you could count on finding Greek texts and a tradition of people who were studying them carefully. In 1204, Constantinople suffered a major disaster. The Fourth Crusade had got there, and instead of proceeding direct to the Holy Land, they stopped and they sacked the city. The destruction of books and other historic monuments was immense. A major disaster for the history of European culture. It's a stroke of luck that Archimedes survived. Probably we have only 1% of the literature written in the ancient world.